4, 3, 2.
And here we go. We are now also live on YouTube. G'day, YouTube, friends of the channel, first-time viewers. If you're new around here, it's your boy Joe here on Fancast, where we have a proper footy chat. Big J, how's it going, my friend?
Oh, mate, I'm happy. I'm at a club that's actually been involved in the trade period this year instead of just being like, oh, yeah, you know, whatever's happening. So I'm pretty happy. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Another year has come where we are linked to absolutely every single player under the sun.
Yep.
It is very normal. I did tell you that this 2 years ago when I first talked to you about pre-seasons and trades, and we're always linked to everyone. Here we are again. We are, in fact, linked to half a dozen players, but three moves have been confirmed, have been finalised, all via free agency.
Yep.
And I am quite happy with who we've selected. 3 best 22 players.
Well, that's it, right? And we've spoken off-air a little bit about the age demographic of some of your more experienced players at Essendon. And probably outside of Goldstein, who we don't think is going to last another 3 years. Yeah, these are guys who are going to survive for that period of time. So, yeah, pretty happy with that. I mean, I'm not happy. Actually, I am happy. I'm happy. Pick 3, I'm happy.
Yeah, why wouldn't you be happy? Pick 3 for Mackay. Are you kidding me? This guy's nowhere near pick 3 caliber type of player.
The AFL says he is.
The AFL says he is.
That's all that matters.
Make sure we recorded a video not too long ago. Big J has told the AFL explicitly how to go about fixing the free agency.
Yep, and the trade period too.
And the trade period, compensation.
Yeah, making it a lot more available for players to move around. You know, as I said in the video, if a club hasn't re-signed someone by October, they probably don't want them at the club anymore. So, you know, it allows players to move around a little bit more.
Yes, say that again. Say that again for Blues Footy. How's it going, Blues Footy 30 on Insta? How's it going, mate? Hope you're doing well. Repeat what you said there about before October.
If a player's not signed before October, then the club probably doesn't want to keep them and the player probably doesn't want to be there. So I don't know if we want to spill the beans or we're going to make everyone watch the video next, but yeah, maybe we'll make everyone watch the next Fancast video and you can kind of see what I'm talking about.
100%. Here we are in the Fancast studio. If you want to, this is a little bit cumbersome here, putting the phone down. We are also live on YouTube, so if you haven't already, head on over to the channel, give us a sub, give us a like. We would love to see you. Obviously, there has been a lot of movement. Essendon was one of the big movers in trade period. We also have the Swans, who are also really much involved in all those trades.
Yeah, I guess kind of, if you look at it, let's say there's been 20 trades so far. For both of those clubs to be probably involved in, 7 of those 20 trades at the moment? You know, not including what else will happen later on, but 7 trades out of, let's say, 20 or so. It's a big number there.
Oh, 100%. The Swans are really gearing up for the now, as we are as well when you look at the types of players that we've added in Mackay, Goldie and Gresh. These are 3 mature age players. The Swans are also a pretty young team, and they made the finals this year. A lot of people would say, unrightfully so, they should not have been in the finals. The Adelaide Crows were robbed of that goal. But they made the finals. They made a grand final in 2022. So the young list is certainly capable of pushing teams to the brink.
Yeah.
And they're adding these experienced players across the line now.
Yeah, I think kind of what dictates with the Swans, we just spoke a little bit about Essendon and kind of keeping guys in that premiership window without having to rebuild. I think the Swans are a little bit like that, but maybe not as bad. The strength of their trades this year, yes, they're fantastic for probably this year and next year. But after that, it really depends on how many years you think Taylor Adams is going to be around. How many years does Grundy have left? If Grundy's got 5 years, then it's fantastic for them. But if he's probably, he's 30 now, next year 31. If you think maybe 32, 33, they really still have to start bringing on some real ruck talent. It's kind of one of their major holes. Yeah, and we'll see what happens there. I wouldn't be surprised if Sydney made a bit of a cheeky play for a Jack Darling. Try and offload a bit of money there, but I'm not sure what their salary cap's like.
I mean, do you really need to have a premium ruckman in the comp? I mean, look at the Pies. The Pies won a grand final this year with Mason Cox and Darcy Cameron.
No, but they're actually usable. Tom Hickey kind of started to fall off a cliff for a while there, and that's why he's been delisted. But outside of Grundy, I don't think they've got really anyone. I think they've got, It's not McAdam, it's McAndrew they've got, who was in and out of the team this year.
Yes.
Joe's Supercoach team doesn't like that very much, but
No.
yeah, just kind of, they don't really have that depth coming through, and I think that's probably one of the major holes, because generally teams try and have one coming through and then someone to play either in the VFL or as a ruck forward type position.
They've got Peanut Laddams too.
Oh, no, that's true. They've got Laddams. Laddams can take a position in the team. So, yeah, I can't really say much more about him. But
Other than he's a peanut.
his name's Peanut for a reason, pretty much.
Yeah, so...
but, yeah, they've got something, but the strength of their trades are really not dictated by they are now. Because I think we can both agree that, hey, their trades were very, very good.
for sure.
Goes into, what happens over the next couple of years. And I think it's going to eat up a little bit of their salary cap that... something I'm afraid about North Melbourne, but I think Sydney as well, is that once you start bringing all these good players, as your other players start to mature, they're going to be getting poached from other clubs, right? So you want to be able to keep your young superstars across. If you're paying, Grundy $1 million or all these other players a lot of money, then that starts to eat into what you would pay everyone else.
Yeah, but I'm not sure how much they're paying the likes of James Jordan.
No,
I don't think they'd be paying. I think he's a very shrewd, good acquisition as well.
Normal wage, probably, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think he'd be breaking the bank, and he also adds some more depth. I love it how he's saying
he'll be playing best 22 every week.
Yeah, and I love it how he says, "I'm going to be given on the ball minutes."
Yep.
And all of a sudden, Taylor Adams just comes out, and it's like, oh, about that one, mate.
There's space to take both in that team. I think Sydney this year, they do have a few players like Sheldrick coming through who are taking a lot of that minute time, but their midfield does need a little bit of help. Outside of like your Chad Warder and your Goulden, I don't rate it as much. So having someone like a James Jordan who has come in to that Melbourne team as that number 23rd sub, if he can do that for them or be subbed out halfway through a game after busting his guts for 3 quarters, I think it'd be fantastic.
Well, there's also Callum Mills in there as well,
who's now injured.
Who would also be a great acquisition too. But yes, he is also injured. So in quite incredible circumstances, I must say, for what is a captain or a co-captain of a side. But look, Taylor Adams coming in, he is a best 22 player in a premiership side. I know he hasn't won he wasn't part of that flag-winning team on the day, but he played all 23 games for the Pies that year.
Yeah,
all 23 games, and he would have played in that grand final if not for his injury.
Yep.
So he's certainly capable of being a best 22 player in a premiership side. I think it would do wonders for these other young midfielders over there at the Swans because they are a young team.
Yep.
Chad Warner's not old. Goulden's not old. James Jordan now has come across as also not old. So he will be sensational leadership, professionalism, and I think just a great fit for that Bloods culture, that hard-nosed, contested ball-winning sort of culture.
Yeah. I mean, it's similar to what North's done with bringing Liam Shields across as well, is that brings that, I'm going to say premiership quality, but it does. It brings that mature age player that does push training standards. And I know that he'd be that type of player for Sydney. Not that they need it as much, but there were times last year that they did get somewhat gassed out. So be able to push your Gouldens and all these other young players to actually train and do better throughout the year, I think would be fantastic for them.
And they got him for, an end of round 2 compensation pick through the free agency.
Yeah, so he's probably on end of round 2, that's the second last compensation that you can actually have because it goes first round pick, end of first round, start of second round, and then end of second round, and then I think it's the start of the third round is the last one. So he's probably gone to Sydney on $300K, a little bit more than that. So it's good for both clubs there.
Exactly. Moving on to the Giants also are a team that you thought, I think, coming into this season, were going to be really heavily involved in getting rid of these players through salary dumps because they are known for notoriously overpaying a lot of these players.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, what that would mean is that they end up being in a situation where they have to salary dump and get rid of these players. Whoops, I dropped that one there. And they have to get rid of these players. Mm-hmm. And I know one of those players that you have in mind that you were telling me you were really keen on getting across to your side, being, of course,
Nick Haynes. But not so much Nick Haynes because it's Nick Haynes, but Nick Haynes because we'd probably get a cheeky draft pick upgrade in draft order.
Yeah, but that would be like Jack Bowes-esque.
Yeah.
In a salary dump that comes along with this pick.
Yep.
It doesn't look. I don't know. You're saying it's posturing. But so far the Giants are saying he's going to stick around. They're still holding on to him, and it'll be really interesting to see whether or not they actually do.
As I said at the start of the show, right? It's only Friday of the week before it's finished. There's still 3 more days plus the weekend. I wouldn't be surprised if come Wednesday it's like, oh yeah, no, he's going. We've been talking about it for the last 3 months. It's the problem with like what happened with Ben Brown when he left. Once you go out and say, yep, we're going to trade this player, we're actively looking, it turns into a seller's market. It turns into a buyer's market and no longer a seller's market.
Yeah.
So, yes, they have the potential to hold the player. He probably won't be playing any more games at GWS, so only 2 time, at least earlier on in the season. Yeah, it's something.
It is something. They have let big Matt Flynn go across to West Coast, which is a good acquisition, I think, for the West Coast Eagles, who, let's be real. I don't think it was a great fit for him to be relying so much on BJ Williams, right?
No.
To be their sole ruckman.
He's been very good though,
but he has been. He's been surprising.
He's been pretty like Nick Nack's gone.
Yeah.
BJ Williams has actually been like fairly decent.
He has.
If he was my number 1 ruck at North Melbourne, I'd say okay, cool, no worries. Similar to what North Melbourne should have done, but we had to delist all these players instead. GWS realises, hey, we've got these guys, they're mid-20s, they want to play, at least compete for senior football, that we need to start offloading them for picks, and we have the availability to do that. So, hey, you're 23, 24, 25, someone else, Briggs has obviously come in and taken the number 1 spot.
Yeah.
We'll go and trade you and we'll get something back so you don't get delisted and you're not stuck in the VFL. Whereas, hey, you don't want to finish your career on like 20 AFL games.
No, 100%. And obviously, as you're saying, Briggs has absolutely lifted, and I think he elevated himself to...
I'm surprised Bruce got recontracted, to be honest.
Yeah, I know, right? Bruce is...
Yeah. He's sticking around.
He's lucky.
There was North Melbourne fans saying, let's get Bruce back. He's done his kind of tenure. He's done his apprenticeship under all these number 1 rucks. But yeah, GWS, I wouldn't be surprised if they came and took, I think it's like Matt Edwards or a couple of other people in the draft this year. They've got their pick 7, so they'll get a nice player, and then they've got a couple of picks in the teens.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they throw a pick at him.
Yeah.
Really good young player, probably the best number 1 ruck. Maybe they do a Luke Jackson, but they'll definitely play him this year.
Yeah, they should. They absolutely should. The Swans were able to get their hands on Joel Hamling as well.
Yep.
So he's
fantastic player.
He is going to be great coming away from the Fremantle Dockers in order to join the Swans, who lost, of course, Paddy McCartan. He was one of those feel-good stories in 2022. The way he came back from his concussions and was able to get back into football, joining the Swans after having his career cut short at the Saints, playing as a key forward, reinvented in the back line as a defender. Unfortunately, that journey comes to an end due to concussion. Joel Hamling is a very welcome addition to the Swans to shore up that back line where they have, at a lot of times, been a bit too small.
Yeah, I think so. And it's interesting, if Damo's watching, hey Damo, but North Melbourne was after him as well last year because they knew he'd be up for free agency. Similar to the Griffin Logue and Tucker deal when they came across, we were actually trying to go for him as well and offered a pick for him because we know the strength's there, we know what he can do, and then Sydney's got him for a steal. It comes down to a little bit what we were saying in our recorded video of, hey, this is a player who's got 1 year left. Like, you're trying to offer him a 1 year contract. Why would he go and stay at Freo when someone's offering him more years and that security? It kind of just doesn't fit.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
If you want him, you should have contracted him for longer or offered him something more than a single year.
Yeah, 100%, exactly. Over here, reading some YouTube comments, guys. If I know you see us here on Insta, we are live on 2 platforms for the first time, giving it a trial out. If you want to be involved in the discussion, please join us on YouTube, just like Causa. Corey, how's it going, my friend? Thanks for coming on. Loving Toby Pink highlights so far. Who is this Toby Pink person, Big J?
So he's a player that was delisted from Sydney.
Yep.
I think maybe 2019 or 2018 delisted from Sydney. They picked him up in the draft. Was a forward. Did join North Melbourne's VFL team in 2020, but obviously the VFL kind of got cut short because of COVID.
Yep.
So he decided to go back home to South Australia, has been doing very well in South Australia, as a key defender, reinvented himself that way. Fantastic leap, great mark, kind of just really strong hands, which is what you want from that key defender role, as opposed to Buckets, who just likes to punch the ball and can't mark. But yeah, he won, I think, I'm not sure of the medal, but he won best defender in the Sandful this year, and now has come back to North Melbourne and has got himself a spot.
I love it how you call him Buckets.
25 years old.
Mate, Buckets suggests that he is capable of taking marks. You can't call him Buckets and then just
watch his
him.
highlights. He has decided that he wants to punch the ball. He doesn't mark anymore. So
yeah, well, at the Bombers, he will be doing both. He will mark and will be spoiling, and he will be in All-Australian contention. He's going to help out Jordan Ridley. We're going to be absolutely flying. Globes.
Going back to
he'll be good.
Toby Pink, though, being able to maybe not fill Mackay's spot, but get a player in who should play every game next year, barring injury, for a delisted free agent spot. So we haven't had to pay, a draft pick to get him or pay a huge amount of money. We've organised with him, hey, come to our club for a few years and we can kind of start off your career again. So I'm hoping there's a few other players in a similar position. Rob the state leagues, man. We need guys who are 25. We've talked about this before.
Yep.
23 to 26 age range. State leagues full of them. Really good players. And in the key defender spot especially, interceptor defender or small, medium defender, you can kind of get away with it. But he's supposed to be playing against the Gorillas, right? Key defenders generally take 2 or 3 years to at least put on the size.
Yep.
So getting someone in who's established, even from the state leagues, is a lot better than automatically drafting an 18-year-old kid, putting them in against, your Tom Hawkins. I was like, well, what's he going to do against this type of player?
Yeah. And that's probably the reason why I think there's the deal to get BZT across from Essendon to Port Adelaide hasn't been so straightforward and really easy. Because like you say, it takes a couple of years for these key defenders to really fill out body-wise and to get the experience to not be monstered all the time. Now, BZT's had a couple of really good years back-to-back playing for us in the back line on a consistent basis. Even at the start of last year, he wasn't on all the time in every single game. He was dropped and then sort of came back into the side almost like a completely new person and was really good, took the next step in his career. However, he would still get killed by a lot of these key forwards that are the really good ones, and we've had to mix up to put Jordan Ridley on them, for example, right? So him leaving to get Mackay across is an upgrade in that department. However, what is BZT's worth now as a result? Because he's had those couple of years, but still isn't quite at that level of all the high top echelon defenders. Yeah. And that's probably another reason why.
He has gone missing quite a lot during games as well,
And that's also another question over Asava Radagalia that Port Adelaide and Geelong are still also trying to get an agreement on, because you've got these two players who aren't the best defenders.
Yeah.
They're not. They're at best B-rated defenders, right? They're not the highest caliber, and yet they still can't get an agreement on what it is that they should be worth.
Well, I mean, it goes back to what we were saying about Mackay, where the value, the market kind of dictates what a player's worth, and you've got a guy who's, let's say BZT, mid-20s. He's got AFL experience. He's got the body. I think the body is the main thing, right? Because you can teach position, you can teach, hey, you have to mark here and get your body here and do all these things. But there's not many 200 centimetre, 100-plus kilo players available. So Mackay's worth pick 3. BZT, I think, maybe is a further bit down.
Yes.
I would say, second-round pick or late first-round pick, which is now like a pick 25, for example. So something around that mark, I think, if Port Adelaide can get something a bit later, then maybe, or a pick, or a player swap. So I know there's a bit of talk at the moment with Dersma coming to Essendon. Potentially you guys draft his brother because they're really close and they want to play with each other.
We won't get to that pick, unfortunately.
We'll see what happens. But, yeah, I think like a player swap potentially for like or, needs-based.
Yeah.
But there really just comes down to, hey, well, who's it? Was it Gossage or who was the ruckman that just said, hey, if you're tall in the AFL, you're worth something? Because like, there's just not many people. No, it was the ruckman from the one that played Gold Coast that does all the commentating. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you're paying for an early 20-year-old player who's 100 kilos, who's 200 centimetres. Yes, he's not the best, but he's got the attributes to help you build up your team and does fill a need and a role in a side. So, pick 20s, early second rounder, I think is the value there. They'll want a first round pick,
Of course.
Well, because you want you want pick 1 for BZT.
Of course.
Yeah, that's just what you want.
I want 2 first rounders for BZT.
Exactly.
But if it was a BZT Dersma swap, would you say that's a good deal? BZT Dersma swap?
Would you say that's a big deal? Because it's not. I'm not the Essendon fan. I don't see kind of.
Yes, you're objective.
The whole. Well, I'm not objective. I'm a North fan, but
in that deal, which you have nothing to do with, would you consider that a fair deal? A BZT swap for Dersma?
I think if Dersma was if he wasn't kind of coming off, a pretty crappy season or a year and a half of not doing much, and he feels a really good need for you, then sure, because you've got coverage for BZT.
Yep.
You kind of take a little bit of a loss, but you get this player in who'll play every year, every game for next year. So, like for like, I think it works. I don't think Essendon will see it that way, but BZT's out the door. Like we said before, right? He's uncontracted. Essendon can't just go and say, hey, BZT, you're sticking around. I'm not sure if Asava has 1 year left. You'll have to remind me, but BZT, he's gone. So does he go to the, preseason draft and potentially imagine a North Melbourne say, hey, mate, we'll give you some money. We'll let you play every week. And then you guys don't get a pick. You guys get nothing.
Exactly.
So that the pressure's there and there's clubs, Hawthorn wants key defenders. Bloody West Coast wants key defenders. Hawthorn, North Melbourne. Like 3 clubs in a row, not even close to where your ladder position is. That will take him. So, yeah, it's kind of it's a tricky situation, but it is what it is. We'll
Dodoro, get it done. I personally think it's a fair deal.
Yeah.
A Dersma straight swap for... Because I think in terms of talent, I think Dersma's a more talented player than BZT. But BZT's got runs on the board in terms of consistent playing.
Yes,
and
which is the big thing.
And being a best 22 player, whereas Dersma has struggled to break into the side, he's been injury-plagued, and he hasn't played that many games. Yes, the talent might not be at the same level. However, the best type of player is an available player.
Yep.
And Dersma has simply just not been available, whereas BZT has been playing every single game. So
and it's a lot harder to get good key defenders than it is to get
good winger.
Okay winger half forwards.
Correct.
Like they grow on trees in the AFL.
Exactly.
Half the first 30 picks are all those type of players. Yep. Because sorry guys, your genetics aren't good enough. You can't grow to 200 centimeters. So yeah. It is what
you can run? Good. Run.
Yeah, run.
On the wing, up and down. You
can build cardio, you can't build height.
Do beep test. Come on, suicides. Let's go.
Radigalia is the big one.
Yeah, Radigalia.
Every year he's been up for trade. Every single... Geelong does not... it's either Geelong really rates him or they just hate him. Because every year this guy has been available. I think for the last 3 years he's been up for contract or trade bait. They're not getting a first-round pick for Radigalia. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen.
They shouldn't.
He should just say, stuff you, Geelong. I'm going in the preseason draft. Someone else will take me. And then they'll come to North Melbourne for a year. We'll pay you a bunch of money. And then we'll trade you to whatever club you want. Like that should be the mindset for a few clubs there.
Yeah. Asava, I don't know. It's not sure if they rate Geelong rate Asava that much. I think it's just Geelong being the new Essendon in terms of being really hard to deal with. Well, it's very hard to get an agreement with Geelong unless they're the ones taking advantage of a team like GWS or Gold Coast.
I think it's more just they understand the value of these key defenders and they have let other players go in the past. Not many people leave Geelong. They'll come. But not many people leave Geelong. Who was the last person that really left Geelong for more opportunities? Lincoln McCarthy, maybe?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's 4 years ago and he's a half forward. It's a bit fishy there. But, yeah, they obviously understand the strength and what he could be for a club. And they're just pay us top dollar, otherwise nothing's happening. So, he's a real PSD threat.
Yeah. And you guys are likely to take him,
if
you reckon?
If he's available... Brady Rawlings is going to give him a call and say, hey, mate.
Yeah, Brady Rawlings should be giving a call right now.
Yeah.
Brady Rawlings shouldn't be waiting for that. Globes, I'm hearing Finlayson is a little disgruntled over being dropped a few times. This is a comment from YouTube. So if you want to leave a comment, please head on over to YouTube and check us out there. Being dropped a few times, and especially the final, and might be interested in a move.
The problem with Finlayson was that it was so well documented that the reasons for him staying and the reasons for him going back to South Australia, that it would be really fishy. Hey, you've left, I'm not going to go too far into, but, family health reasons, things like that, you've gone back home. oh, I'm disgruntled, I'm going to go somewhere else. Like, what's he going to go? He's going to go to Adelaide? There's not a lot of options. It's not like Victoria where you hate Hawthorn, you can go to North Melbourne or Geelong or Melbourne or anyone else.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of options. So do you pull your family away from, like, all the support and everything they've got to go somewhere else? I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, look, it's a really interesting one. Look, Finlayson is a great player. Don't get me wrong. I love Jeremy Finlayson. I think they're definitely a much better side Port Adelaide is when he's around and on the field. He was the sub in that.
He's just a really good. He's a really good utility.
Final?
Really good utility player for what they're looking for. 100%. He can ruck, he can play in the back line. He saved them in the ruck line. I think he saved, was it during the middle of the year?
Yeah.
He just saved them. He played ruck 3 or 4 games and actually did okay.
And it was an extra midfielder.
Yeah.
He was a Brody Grundy all over again, except he had forward craft. He was able to pinch hit in the ruck and then attack on ground level with his agility, go forward and kick goals. He's absolutely sensational. I can't see him... As great as it would be Globes, I really would love to see him come across. But I just don't think we'll see that from him. Obviously, his whole family's rooted there. And, they're not going to leave the medical practitioners that are currently treating his wife. Every time the game is played, they're always panning in the crowd towards her. Yeah. And it's great. It's touching. I get it. But, eventually...
Yeah, maybe he goes to Adelaide, but, that's probably about it.
Yeah, that's about it. Exactly. So, look, all in all... would be interesting to see. The Lions, they managed to strengthen their back line by adding Tom Dode across.
I'm not a fan.
I'm not a fan of that move? Why not?
The guy's come off 2 ACLs, right? He's still injured now. To offer him 5 years, I think he's just bonkers. I think Adelaide had offered him 4 years. Yes, the player's been great, but even when he was fit at Adelaide, it didn't feel like he was the same player as he was when he first came in. I remember everyone had him in Supercoach. Not that that's a gauge of how good a player is, but you can at least see him getting involved, right?
Yes.
The last couple of years, it just feels like maybe his role's changed a little bit or something's happened. But to offer 5 years to this type of player, 2 ACLs, 1 more ACL is done, and then you have to pay out 4 years of a contract.
Yeah.
So it seems like a bit of a... thing for me.
I think it's clear as day that they've identified that they
course.
would like to assist. They'd like to assist a guy in Harris Andrews to be
100%.
more of the intercepting type player.
Yeah,
because
if they can set him up to be, you look at Melbourne as an example. If Andrews can be the Stephen May and then Doty can be the lever, then sure, no worries. But I just think the risk is too high.
It could be very high, but it is. At the end of the day, if that's just for them, they clearly have identified him as a player that they can get across. They must have some money in the bank. They've obviously had Rich retire as well. So there's some money floating around that they could offer his way. We saw in the grand final that Billy Frampton was used as a defensive forward to play on Harris Andrews to sort of try and nullify or reduce his influence on the game in that grand final. Now, obviously, if you ask a Collingwood supporter, they'll say he did his job and he did sensational, blah, blah, blah. He kept them goalless.
Good teams need 2 good defenders.
Yes, correct.
And they got found out. They've got kind of those Gardner and Payne types who, yes, can do well, but good teams need 2. And it really hurt Brisbane being, like you're saying, Darcy Moore not as much because Murphy did play.
Yeah.
But good teams, if you're going to push for finals, they need 2 really good defenders. So if Doty's back to, whatever, then it fits. But yeah, it's just the risk.
Plus, the Brisbane Lions have a really good medical team, and they've been able to, over the past few years, be able to keep some of these players that on the park that historically have had some really bad injury concerns. I know, obviously, we had an injured Joe Danaher for 2 years, and then he goes over to Brisbane, doesn't miss a game, the bastard.
Kicks 60 goals.
He just kicks 60 goals. I hate Judas Danaher. That was really annoying. Meanwhile, there's been quite a few pick swaps here and there.
Yep.
The first, another free agent move was, of course, Essendon receiving Todd Goldstein, which was a great acquisition for us. And then very soon thereafter, the next day, we acquire Big Ben Mackay for your guys getting compensation pick number 3, which is obviously something that both clubs is happy about because we didn't have to give up anything to get him across the line, and he's an upgrade on BCT. You guys got pick number 3.
Yeah.
So that's a win-win, I think, for both clubs.
And we feel like we can really fill what he offered to the team in maybe state league players or bringing someone in.
Yep.
We've got some, ideas, obviously, of players available at that kind of range who mid-20-year-olds probably could compete similarly to what he was.
Yep.
And we can do that. So, yeah.
So
it does leave a hole for us at the moment,
fine.
but we'll fix that up.
It's fine. Classic North Melbourne. You guys can
Hey, pick three. Last year, we had Sheasel and Wardlaw.
Yes.
Pick 2 and 3.
Oh, yeah.
If we can do similar again, mate,
you should.
We're good. Nick Watson, best small forward, out of your whole draft year, probably next year as well. Go and pick someone else up as well.
It's hard to stuff up top 5 draft picks, mate.
That's not what the AFL's saying. There's a lot of people at the moment saying, hey, you've got to be really careful with pick 1 because if something happens with Reed or someone else is better or whatever,
Harley Reid's the best.
You can really stuff it up.
Harley Reid's by far the best player.
We've got 2 picks in the top 3.
Yeah.
Regardless of what happens.
Exactly.
We're going to pick up another 2 superstars, 2 guys that can fill needs. So
you'll be fine.
Ben Mackay, defenders growing trees, mate.
Yes, especially key defenders. Look, when you're shit and you're at the bottom of the ladder, of course you're going to have access to a lot of draft picks, not to mention when you get AFL assistance. The Bulldogs have gone and acquired James Harms.
Yep.
And Melbourne receives a future 3rd round pick. Now, that is a very easy trade, I think, if you're the Western Bulldogs, being able to acquire a ready-made senior player like James Harms who can win an in and under contested ball. I just question the necessity. Why?
It's an interesting one because I think in recent years, a Bont sat to go forward and things like that, and it's been great kind of for our super coach because he can kick a goal or 2, but they've had to they're missing out on him in the middle. I think kind of doing that allows a McRae, for example. He doesn't have to be in the forward line anymore. Next year, he might be pure mid because Harms is kind of taking that role away. Or a Bont plays now 90% mid instead of 70, things like that. So adding another player, yes, he's a little bit older, but I think it could really help them out there. And they wouldn't have cost much, 3rd round pick. Who cares? It's a guy that maybe wouldn't have been contracted again. So premiership level team, cool. You've got a good player in. It's win-win for both sides, really.
I can't help but how is that a win-win for Melbourne? I just can't help but feel that Melbourne seriously don't give a flying fig about James Harms in order to pick him up for a future 3rd.
Yeah, but if they were going to delist him, now they've got a future 3rd.
Yeah, that's a nothing pick anyway.
Potentially. Depends how many spots go back next year.
Man, James Harms must feel very harmed inside at how little he is valued by this team.
He wasn't that well used this year, was he?
What was the point of... Yeah,
it's not like they've lost Cozzy for a future 3rd.
That's true.
James Harms, I think, didn't even play much. I think Melksham played more than Harms this year.
Mate, Melksham's a good player. Don't disrespect the Essendon player like that. They missed him.
Aren't they both?
No, Harms didn't play for Bombers.
Okay, cool.
Causa, it would be funny if we pick Watson and Bulldogs want him and don't know what to do with it.
Yes, that's what I want. We need Nick Watson. He played with Clarko's son. I want him at the club. Offers so much. Really good small forward player. Is the right type of mix. Could be the next Charlie Cameron for us.
Nice.
He really, we're going after midfielders. Some people are saying we'll go for a couple of mids. I'm like, just fill the need. This guy's a top 5 pick. Just take him. It's okay. Pick 3 for a guy who's top 5. It still works out.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Guys, we are reading comments on YouTube Live. So if you want to head on over and leave us a comment or ask us a question, please head on over to YouTube Live and you can join us there. Dill Stevens, he has made the move from the Swans to North Melbourne. We were talking about the Swans being very active and in acquiring a lot of players, which they have, but it hasn't been for free. They have also lost a player in Dylan Stevens. Please tell us, are you happy or how happy are you with this? Because of course you're happy. You're happy whenever anyone comes to North Melbourne, but how happy are you? How happy are you?
Run and carry for North Melbourne has been a real issue.
Yep.
So being able to get a guy that can play on a wing, that can run. I mean, you look at the highlights, it's him bursting from packs, just bolting up and down the ground, up and down the ground. When you're behind Goulden, it's okay. He has missed a little bit of time in the last couple of years just because he's been playing VFL, but that's why he's come across for more opportunity. So he will play best 22 footy majority of the year next year, and he will be fantastic for us up and down on that wing. So I'm pretty happy.
Excellent.
I mean, if you look at the pick swap itself, so we've got Dylan Stevens and pick 25 this year that we can talk about a little bit later, and we'll talk about kind of where that 25 went.
Yeah.
But we gave up pick 44. So, whatever, we might not even get to 44 in the draft this year, so it doesn't matter.
Yep.
But then also we've given up one of our future assistants picks, where the AFL kind of said, hey guys, you better do something with these because you're not going to have them next year. Correct. So here's a couple of cheeky picks. So we've turned a pick that didn't exist into pick 25 and then spent 44 on Dylan Stevens. So it's worked out pretty well for us, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
Depth player who's going to play best 22 every week.
Mate, you can't say a depth player who's going to be in your best 22.
Top 5 pick, Joe.
He's not depth, bro.
Top 5 pick, I'll take it.
A best 22 player is not a depth player.
It just adds to our
He's a best 22 player.
He adds to our number of first round picks slowly. The club's getting more first round picks than anything else.
Yeah, it's just you just got to do the right things by him.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Crows, they get Chris Burgess across from the Suns. Not a really high pick move, but they also get a first round pick, which is currently pick number 14, to go along with him.
Yep.
I think it almost seems like the player movement isn't the big highlight. It's almost the associated pick that comes along with it.
Well, we know Gold Coast. We know I don't know if Dave can put it up, but we know how many picks Gold Coast have in the draft now. They've got something like 8 or 9 picks between pick 20 and pick 40.
Yeah, it's all in the form of points, though. It's going to be for matching.
So everything's points and matching now. So, yes, they offload pick 14, but that was gone anyway. It is what it is. I think picks-wise and points-wise, the 2 picks they got in the 20s are actually worth more than the pick 14. And Burgess, I think, was getting delisted anyway.
Yes.
So he was looking for more opportunity, create a bit of goodwill there. It's worked out okay for them.
Yep, exactly. Now, we did mention this trade earlier on in the night, but we are up to it now in our running list of trades. Big Brodie Grundy leaving the Melbourne Demons. It is remarkable that they were willing to bring him across from the Pies with this hope and dream that he and Max Gawn can coexist and take the AFL world by storm as the Tap brothers. Unfortunately, that completely went up in flames. They eventually just dropped the guy. Didn't bother playing him. They dropped him to work on his forward craft in the VFL when there was no VFL on that week even. So. And it was funny how they went from, he's at a club that really values him and respects him and wants what's best for him, to just willingly not selecting him in the final side and then not even using their sub.
I wouldn't use my sub on Brodie Grundy.
Mate, he wouldn't be the sub.
Collingwood didn't use their sub on
He shouldn't have been the sub.
No,
they were forced to use their sub because of the Nathan Murphy concussion. But when you've got a guy of Brodie Grundy's caliber, you put him in the ruck, you play Max Gawn as an intercept defender or as a forward. But unfortunately, neither of them can reliably kick goals. So why Melbourne thought it would be a good idea to bring across Brodie Grundy when he's never played a day of forward in his life? They're trying to train a guy at his age to play forward. They don't have a single good key forward anyway. No. Their best key forward's bloody Ben Brown.
Ben Brown, who's been injured.
Yeah,
it's an interesting one. At least Melbourne hasn't come in and had to spend a lot of time on the experiment. Collingwood was paying some of the contract. Let's say it was $1 million.
They still are.
they still are, which I was going to get to. So
sorry.
Let's say $1 million. Collingwood's paying $250. Cool. You brought in Brodie Grundy for an experiment. If it worked out, fantastic. You're the best team in the league. You've won another premiership. It didn't. We've offloaded you for the next year. $650K, whatever. It doesn't matter as much. I just think, they're giving Brodie Grundy some more chance. Obviously, he's going to be number one ruck at Sydney. Experiment's kind of not happened. It's not worked out. So move on, really, for both clubs.
Not only has the experiment not worked.
Melbourne doesn't have to pay any of his contract at Sydney. Collingwood's still paying that, which is a huge thing. Yeah. It really opens up I wouldn't be surprised, Joe. Next year, I don't know what the free agents are like, but Melbourne's going to go after someone big.
Oh, they're
going to say, hey, we've got the Brodie Grundy money now. Hey, Tom Lynch or someone else, you're available in the forward line. Here's some money. So, it could really happen there.
Yeah, but they killed his value. You look at what the Sydney Swans got for him.
It doesn't matter.
The Swans got him for a third-round pick, which is pick 46, and a future second.
But Melbourne only paid pick 25 for him. So pick 46 and a second-round pick that could be pick 30 is probably worth more than pick 25.
Perhaps.
It's not like Melbourne gave up, pick 4 and then have to offload him and then get whatever. all Melbourne have really done have probably netted a little bit more points in the trade value itself, but they've just paid his contract for a year.
Well, they got him for a steal.
Yeah.
This one, I think, they gave him up for a steal.
Yeah.
Because
But that's okay.
I do consider him...
It's not a loss.
I do consider him one of the best rucks in the comp, and I just can't help but feel that they've really lost an opportunity to make proper use of him on their side and to truly take that next step. Because Melbourne have shown that they're capable of playing the two ruck system with Gawn and Jackson.
It doesn't work out for them though.
But with the way I don't think they tried it well enough. And I think if it was any other coach other than Simon Goodwin, I think it would have worked.
Potentially.
I think Simon Goodwin's one of the worst coaches in the league.
I think it goes back to your saying of, hey, neither of them can reliably kick goals. Like, our Supercoach team knows that Gawn can kick goals, right?
Yes, correct.
But not on like a regular. Luke Jackson offers a lot more in that forward line.
Yep.
As kind of, I'm going to say a bigger body than Brodie Grundy. Brodie Grundy's quite skinny. He can ruck, he can do that, but he isn't going to be out here stopping key defenders from marking him. Versus a Jackson who at least is mobile enough to get in position and did do some stuff. He's warranted at that kind of younger age group versus a 30-year-old as well. So I think it does come down to, hey, Brodie Grundy, we're going to play you in the VFL. You're getting paid $650K. You want to play somewhere else and play best 22 footy.
Yeah.
Let's make that happen.
Yep. Now, Brodie Grundy will not be the only ex-Collingwood player to be making his way across to the Swans because he will be reuniting with Tay
and not
Taylor Adams.
James Jordan's left, so there's a Melbourne player leaving.
Correct.
There's a Collingwood player, and then there's a Melbourne Collingwood player that's left to Sydney. So, yeah, it's worked out all right.
He is going to be very much at home over there at the Swans, joining Taylor Adams, who the Swans got in exchange for a second-round pick, which is currently pick number 33, a very good, shrewd acquisition by the Swans, adding to that midfield brigade, which is really impressive. I think if he can stay healthy, if he can,
that's the big if.
That's the big if, right?
Yep.
Can he stay healthy? Obviously, he's had that hamstring complaint, which caused him to miss out on both the prelim and the grand final, which is quite tragic because, like I said before, he played every single game in that year, or this year, should I say, in particular. So that's really rough. Reading a comment here from Lily on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching. Guys, if you want to comment, please head on over to YouTube. Collingwood's interested in Ugle-Hagan for next year. Yes, we did read that. There is a rumour.
And Schultz this year.
And Schultz this year, still on the cards. And you've also heard that St Kilda might take Liam Henry to the pre-season draft.
How? North Melbourne has contacted him. Like, bit of insider information, right? But North Melbourne has contacted Henry. They've said, hey, if you get to PSD, if this St Kilda deal doesn't work out, we'll take you. St Kilda are trying to say, hey, Freo, PSD time. North Melbourne's going to say, hey, Henry, come to our club.
Correct.
We'll take you. You can play every game. So, yeah, it's a silly decision. They need to make it happen. That Jade Gresham money's gone. Like it's that pick's gone
exactly.
for Henry because PSD's just not going to work out.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Even if he comes to North for a year, we can offload him to St Kilda later. But, yeah, there's definitely been talks between the two, the player and the club, and PSD's just not the option.
Yeah, he's just going to add depth to your team, isn't he? As a best 22 player.
It's another first-round pick.
Another first-round pick.
Let's go.
Super coaches on a Benny boy. How's it going, Mr. Ben? Good to see you the other day. I'm very sad about the result from the grand final. But it looks like you're up and about. Good to see you, mate. Daylight savings, I know it can be heartbreaking. I guess I should be upset with Gunston, but I guess he didn't like Shitwood taking his spot. Mate, Shitwood was exactly what you called him on that grand final day. That had he been half of what his usual self was, you guys probably would have won the flag. But he was so shit. Like it's disrespecting shit.
Hipwood has those games where he'll have a game where he's on and he'll kick 5.
Yeah.
But then he has a game where he does nothing and has 2 disposals.
Correct.
Like that's just the player. And that maybe that's youth, but when you're like mid-20s, are you still a youth? I don't know if that's the case anymore.
Not
it's
anymore,
just him.
no.
So it's like, how long can we excuse, hey, look, this is the way a player's going. But yeah, Gunston moving across, it's an interesting one. I understand the guy's like in his 30s. I would have liked him to come to North Melbourne instead. Really kind of shows a little bit of where Clarko was at with these triple premiership players. Because we can offer him a coaching position. We can put him against, like, with Larky for a year or 2 in that forward line. He can teach, he can do everything else. He'll come for an okay money. But he's picked Hawthorn, the team that he's come from. So good luck to him, really.
Yeah. Well, it's not a bad idea to go back. And I would imagine that he went across to Brisbane thinking that he can win a flag. It was very close to winning a flag, but then dropped himself. I don't know who drops themselves. Yeah. I think there's a bit more going on at play there.
Potentially some off-field stuff maybe.
For him to want to come back now to Melbourne, to the team that he left. Look, he's not the first player to do so, not the last player, I would imagine, as well. So I think it will be a good pickup there for the Hawks, just from a leadership perspective, and in teaching the young ones in how to play the game and leading patterns and professionalism, things like that.
Which is hilarious because the Hawks have come in and dropped like all their forwards.
Correct.
So I don't know what forwards he's going to be teaching because Lewis is there and then Gunston's back. So
correct.
Cool.
Kozzy's gone. Kaczynski's been dropped.
Yeah, all these key forwards that Gunston's now supposed to be developing. Where are they, guys?
He's the one who's going to be getting game time.
Even Jekka's gone now. So it's like you've got no one over 195. No one to develop. So it's
easiest coaching gig of his life.
Yeah, mate. It's like Doty going to Brisbane.
Yeah. Fremantle want pick 13. St Kilda is offering pick 31. St Kilda have to up their game. It's not going to get done for pick 31, that's for sure.
Free, especially with maybe if all this talk about all the players leaving Freo didn't come out, they could swing a deal and like pick 30 and then a future pick next year. But Freo's been roasted by the Perth media
I think
it's like 15 players in the last 2 or 3 years who have left.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So they're going to want good money. Otherwise, see you later, PSD. Maybe it'll come down to Wednesday. I think it's 8 o'clock or something that the trades are done. Maybe it comes down to Wednesday 7:59 and then a pick goes through and okay. But otherwise, PSD, see you later.
Yeah, 100%. Ben, I left the MCG, stumbled out, ordered a pizza in St Kilda, then woke up 6 hours later with a half-eaten pizza on the bed. Look, mate, I can't say I've been there because my team has never been good enough to reach a grand final. Look, you'll be there. What's a finals win, let alone a grand final? It's all right. You guys will be back strong, better than ever. I can't help but think that the way you guys are at and your age demographic of your team, the Brisbane Lions, as long as you finish top 2, you're almost at half a door. The door's always like half a jar for you to be in the grand final the next year because you guys just don't lose at the Gabba.
I think Danaher is probably one of the older players in that Brisbane team as well. So it's not like you've got a lot of guys who are like a Geelong, for example, when they kind of push for finals and they won theirs, or, where you've got a lot of 30-year-olds who are now turning 31, 32. Like, Rich is gone, Gunston's gone. The age demographic for that Brisbane team has only gotten better. And you're going to bring in more people. You've got another Ashcroft coming next year. Like, come on, man. You'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. You rate Lily can Bulldogs keep Ugle-Hagan and Tim English next year? Look, I'd imagine that they're going to get a lot of attention. Obviously, Collingwood are already sniffing around Ugle-Hagan, and Tim English is originally from WA, isn't he?
Yep.
So obviously the go-home factor.
I don't think he's on a lot of money at the Dogs. Like, he's going to get offered a lot of money by West Coast.
And the crazy thing is, the Bulldogs just have thrown an absolute metric shit ton of money at Norton, even though he wasn't coming out of contract.
No.
So I would imagine, I don't know, I think the way this list manager is doing his work here over there at the Bulldogs, unless they have on really good confidence from Tim English himself, don't you worry, I'm not going to leave. I'm going to stay here. Or Ugle-Hagan as well.
Yeah.
Don't you guys worry, I'm going to stick around. I'm going to stay. That was a massive, bold move to pay Norton that much money.
Yeah, it was a bit silly.
Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I haven't seen as much from him this year, but I didn't think he was worth that much of a player.
I agree.
But, yeah, we'll see what happens there. I think if Tim English gets done early, then Ugle-Hagan will stay. But the problem is Croft's coming in as well. So it really depends. I think the Bulldogs have probably 5 or 6 really good quality forwards that they're going to be playing. I mean, they're glad that Josh Bruce went into the back line this year. Obviously, has been delisted due to injury. But
yes.
Yeah. Excuse me. Really good for that. So it's going to depend, hey, what happens with Lobb, for example, who I'm hearing may not be as happy. I think he's the one to get pushed out and the rest are going to stay.
Yeah.
Because they've still got Sam Darcy.
Is he on big money?
Who?
The Lobster?
Oh, he'd have to be on something to go from Freo. So, yeah.
Coming back to Victoria is
I mean, he bought a house. Like,
yeah, exactly.
He knew that he was going to get paid something. So
Correct.
even on 700K, let's say he's on 600. Like, yes, that frees up something, but it's more about the playing time than anything else. If you're in a team that has 6 good forwards who can play key, then they're going to really struggle to fill the positions, and you're not going to be an Ugle-Hagen that wants to play VFL every year. That's kind of the thing you want to navigate.
Yes.
Give us Rory Lobb, we'll take him.
Yeah. Basically, moral of the story, anyone who is even half a chance of playing AFL football next year, come to North Melbourne.
Or don't play in the Dogs forward line.
Or don't play for the Dogs. Oh, because Bevo will kill him.
I'm surprised Croft actually nominated, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised that he did, because you're looking at that team, he will not be playing in that Dogs forward line for the next 3 years, barring big injuries.
Right.
Exactly. Why are you going to that club? I understand your dad played for them, but why are you going there? You're not going to play AFL.
No, he's just not. What's we got here?
It's like Buku Kamas wants to decide if he wants to stick around and play in the VFL forward line. Come on, mate.
Lily, I rate Nick Caulfield better than Liam Henry.
Yep. That Caulfield's probably gone too.
He's probably gone. Ben, I heard Gunston didn't like that no one noticed him up here. Don't you know who I am? Freaking Gunston, mate. It's in the name. He's a gun. Lily, next year's draft is going to be good, you heard? Yes, next year's draft is going to be very deep.
I think it's going to be a lot of midfielders, though.
That's good. We like mids.
I think
everyone likes mids.
Not you guys. Not us. We're happy.
You're stacked with mids.
We're fine the way we are.
Yes.
But it's an interesting one. It'd be good to check kind of the trend of not picking up as many forwards anymore. Not forwards, but not picking up as many kids in the draft.
Yeah.
I remember 5-6 years ago, Nick Larkey was pick 70, right? Because list sizes went up to the high 40s. Now, less and less players are getting delisted. More players are getting traded, which means that clubs, I think Melbourne, they're looking at, we'll take 1 or 2 kids. Geelong, we'll take 1 or 2. It might be a big depth draft, but if clubs don't have enough list spots, then it just doesn't work for them.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, it's something to really consider for a lot of these people. We'll see what happens there.
Correct. Moving on, guys, if you're watching us on Insta, please, we are reading comments right now on YouTube. So head on over to YouTube and type in Fancast AFL to join us in the discussion. Moving on to the next comment. Ben, next year have 5 primo mids straight up. Absolutely.
Yep. 6 defender primos too.
And 6 defender primos. Lily, I watch out for next year, draft Tyler Welsh, son of Scott Welsh.
Nice.
We'll keep an eye on him. Ben O'Sullivan and Levi Ashcroft look so good that they do.
But Ashcroft is already part of Brisbane, right?
Correct.
So there's another good player they're going to get, another early first-round pick. I hope North Melbourne isn't the bottom 2 because we've been stopped, I think, 4 years in a row with picking the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
Or at least close enough to the number 1
But
pick.
you haven't stuffed them up, though.
No, we haven't. But, it's just more and more goes into, hey, these players are already locked into clubs.
Correct.
Does something need to change there, or does it need to be a bit more open?
Yeah, maybe the top 5 picks, or the top 4 picks, maybe, can be reserved for the bottom 4.
If you want to go back, it kind of, I don't know, father-son is interesting.
Yeah, it's true. Norton is an all or nothing kind of guy, 0-100, naught or ton.
Yes.
I like that. Yes.
Which
nice
is similar
Ben.
to Hipwood. Hipwood either has good games or he has shit games.
Mostly North, though.
No, but I mean, he has good games or shit games. Norton's the same. Norton will have really good games. He kicks 6, intercept marks, or he just does nothing.
Yeah, correct.
It's the same, and you've just given him 8 years.
Correct. Lily, will Ben King stay at the Gold Coast? I think he will. I think Ben King will stay. You heard it here.
It depends.
He's got Dimmer Hardwick as a coach now.
Which is the big thing.
Which is, without a doubt, if it wasn't for Damien Hardwick coming across and being the coach of the Gold Coast Suns, I would have been so much more confident on him coming to a Victorian side. But because Dimmer Hardwick is there, and you see that a lot of those players in the Richmond dynasty, when they won their flags, people wanted to go there.
Yep.
No one wanted to leave willingly unless they were stuck in the VFL. But otherwise, if you were in that best 22, you were not looking to leave. You were enjoying football. You were playing with each other, despite the atrocities and adversities. And what's up with that face, huh?
No. That's fine. It makes a good point, though. I think Gold Coast's biggest problem has been not competing for finals.
Yes.
The last 2 or 3 years, they've been able to keep a lot of their really good players because they can say, hey, we're competing for finals.
Yep.
So I think that's going to be the really big thing for them is, hey, Ben King, if Gold Coast are looking like they're going to, maybe they finish 9th on the ladder next year, Ben King would rather stay than go back home, I reckon.
Yep, I think so too.
I don't think he's gone to St Kilda and playing with his brother. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Lily's asking, why didn't North Melbourne go for Sean Darcy?
Who says we're not? Freo just don't want to give him up. So he's still got 1 year on his contract. We're going to go after him again next year if he's not recontracted. 3 weeks ago, they said the contract talks are going well. He's going to re-sign. He hasn't re-signed.
Still 3 weeks later.
He hasn't re-signed. So potentially it's like, hey, pick 3's there.
Yeah.
I would give up pick 3 for Sean Darcy.
Oh,
let's,
yeah.
Let's hey, Freo. There's still 4 or 5 days left to go. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it is what it is at the moment.
Would you offer pick 2 and 3 to Collingwood for Nick Dacos?
No.
No. Yeah, fair enough.
We've got Sheasel. we don't need Nick Dacos. It's fine.
We got Sheasel.
We've got Sheasel.
Ben, I've heard mumblings of Adelaide chasing McCluggage. Hasn't eventuated, but I expect them to keep pestering next year.
He's the one. So
McCluggage is a good player.
If we look at that Brisbane team...
Is he from South Australia?
It doesn't even matter. If we look at that Brisbane team, they keep putting in really, really good midfielders. Dunkley's come. Neil's obviously come. They've got Ashcroft now, and then
Jared Lyons came.
Jared Lyons, I don't know what happens with him. But the other Ashcroft's coming as well. So someone needs to leave. There's potential to go and pull a player out of a club. And I think McCluggage is the one because he kind of plays that, let's say that Adam Chera role at Freo. That's how he left. Because you had, Sarong and Brayshaw and stuff, and Chera was the forgotten child, I'll say. McCluggage is a little bit like that. He'll have to leave for really big money and things like that. But, yeah, there's definite potential to take him from that team, I think.
Yep.
Maybe Ben can yell at me, but I think he's the one out of that midfield. Robertson ends up staying because Ashcroft's injured next year, so he's going to play. But I think McCluggage is the one that can be poached out of that team.
Right. Ben, Lions also have another academy player for 2025. Also was already listed number 8 on the watch list for that draft as an inside-outside mid.
Yes.
So Lions in a good spot.
So
Daniel Annabelle.
How can they keep fitting all these midfielders into that team? They just can't.
It's
so
an
someone
NGA.
has to leave.
NGA is if you're in the top...
No, but it's best 22 playing, though. But it's best 22 playing. So I'm just saying,
they haven't been drafted yet, though.
No. But if you're thinking that, hey, this guy is going to be best 22 in the midfield, there's another player who's going to come in. They can't fit. They can't keep pouring water in this bucket and the bucket not overflow.
Yeah, but they have to use a pick on him to get him in.
That's fine. Doesn't matter.
But if it's anywhere in the top 40, anyone can.
The
AFL
AFL will change the rules for Brisbane.
So there's no guarantee that just because this guy's in their next generation academy doesn't mean he's going to make it to Brisbane.
It doesn't matter. We'll see what happens.
It does matter.
But it's just another addition to that midfield.
The only team that has that next generation academy concession is the Gold Coast Suns
And Sydney.
Of course. Freaking the Swans.
And I think GWS maybe as well. They've got their academy from Canberra that they can get access to, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. North should look at Dougal Howard, says Lily. Dougal Howard?
It's an interesting one.
I think he's not too bad. He's a good age.
From what I'm hearing, they're going to ask too much for him.
Sure.
So he's not been playing for a reason, right? He's 27. If he was a free agent, potentially. If he was delisted free agent, potentially. But he's not playing for a reason. So we're not going to give up a top pick for him.
Yeah.
We're probably not going to give up a second round pick for him. And then our next pick this year is like pick 50.
Yep.
So, cool. If St Kilda want pick 50 for Howard, we'll make it happen, right? But if you're not going to be in our plans, then yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, fair enough. Lily's asking, what will Oliver be like for Melbourne next year? To be honest, I'm not even sure if Oliver's even going to start the season.
No, he won't. The way
he should have time off.
Yeah,
with 100%. All of what's going on in his life. Obviously, what's happened with this news cycle has revealed a lot of off-field things that probably shouldn't have been revealed. Other rumours have been circulating about various altercations or other things that might have happened that has led to him being in the hospital. Regardless, no one goes to the hospital if they're happy and they're in a good position.
Yep.
So regardless of what the actual truth of the matter is, what we do know is that Oliver is not in a good space. He needs all the support and help that he can get. If it means stepping away from the footy bubble just for a little bit so that he can have some time to assess, recollect himself, and refocus himself on what's important in his life, I can't see him having much of any influence when it comes to football next year.
I'm half expecting maybe Easter time he'll be back training. and then they'll just ease him back into it. The beauty of it as well is that Melbourne have shown their team's good enough that they don't need him to play because they still won games when Oliver wasn't there. They still made finals when Oliver wasn't there. So it's not like, let's say, who can I use? Like Brayshaw or Sarong or someone else leaving from another club that they're relying on him to do well.
Yeah.
They've got enough coverage to actually cover Oliver Boingway. So I think it's been well documented. He's on a large contract. They're not going to get rid of him because imagine, hey, look, you've got mental problems or something's happening. Yep, we've got rid of you. Like, you're not our business anymore. It's going to destroy the club. So 6 months into the season, maybe he comes back. It's not needed for Melbourne because they'll still be competitive. So I think that's what's going to end up happening.
It also makes the club look incredibly bad.
Oh, of course.
And that they basically are seeing mental health as like a pariah.
Yeah.
And like as soon as anyone comes out,
not our business. Cool. That's it. See you later.
Mental health problems. Okay. Goodbye.
Yeah.
And no one will. And that just looks like that. Who the hell would want to play for that sort of employer? When they clearly don't value mental health to that point. So I can completely see Melbourne. They've got him on a massive deal, massive contract. If it means giving him this little time of rest, a break, in the grand scheme of things, it's actually better for them in the long run.
Yep.
Lily St Kilda is going to have 3 academy kids next year's draft. That unfortunately could be heartbreaking to St Kilda because if each 3 of those players are selected inside the top 40 before St Kilda's picks, they can't match that bid.
We might only have 40 picks.
Yeah, could only have.
If clubs are only delisting 1 or 2 or 3 players, we might only have that.
Correct. Ben
Probably
Oliver
45.
going cheap in keeper leagues. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yep.
Will Wangani Miller go back to Adelaide next year?
No,
I don't think so. I think he just had a career best season.
Yep.
It seems that he's now relishing that role, playing off half back under Ross Lyon. They played a final.
I think if he didn't have the role, then potentially. But it also comes down to St Kilda have got a really strong young group of players, similar to a North Melbourne where everyone kind of fights for each other and things like that. If he was left alone, if he didn't have a lot of friends at the club, like speaking to Caminiti, they're all really, really close.
Yes.
So I don't see him leaving. Maybe later on when he's mid-30s or something, go play for the club that your parents played for, whatever. But I don't see it happening.
Yeah, fair enough. Exactly. When you got that role, just that cheap role of half back, where you just happy with the team wants the ball in your hands, go kick, do what you want with it.
You're seen as being like welcome, right?
Yes,
you're seen as
absolutely.
Hey, I have an important role in my team. Why am I leaving? Like, it's not like a fringe best 22 player. It's just not going to happen.
Exactly. Benny Boy, do you think big bulking mids are on borrowed time?
No.
The game is getting faster. Mids like Butters, Rosie, Dawson starting to dominate. In 5 years, could Cripps, Green, Wines types be made redundant? You were quick to say no, so I'll let you start.
I think it really depends on the player in the team, but there's no way a Tom Green is ever going to slow down. A lot of clubs are desperate for that really good congestion player from a ruck stoppage or from just a stoppage around the ground. There is a spot for that player. Maybe they need to become a little bit more multidimensional. Maybe he needs to hit the road and build his tank, hit the field in the preseason and the off-season.
Yep.
But there will always be a spot for that player. Because you look at it, Dunkley's gone because he's a real clearance player. You know, the Bulldogs now are like desperate for that type of player, right? Tom Green, not at GWS. Like, clubs just need that type of player. So
yeah, I can say as an Essendon supporter, we haven't had one of those in a while. Ever since Jobe Watson retired. Jobe was our last pure inside mid clearance machine, and I'm telling you that is the biggest reason why we lose to Geelong, why we lose to the Bulldogs, because their big bodies physically break our tackles.
Yep.
You can see it. That was the big difference. When I was watching that game, I could see our players were giving it their all. Our players were genuinely tackling these guys, and guys like Buse would just simply be able to bust their way through the tackle, get a handball out. What would have been a stoppage ended up being a defeated tackle, running away from the clearance, from the congestion, and setting up really quick goals.
I think gone is the days of having a Cunnington, who was always known as being, hey, he's great in the stoppage but doesn't run. I think that player has gone.
Yeah.
Maybe if a Wines is that type of player, but I think Cripps gets around the ground enough.
He does.
He's got the height.
And can push forward.
Which I think is the big thing.
Correct.
So maybe the mid-80s centimetre guy who doesn't run much but he's good in the clearance is gone. But if you've got other aspects to your game, you're still fine. I mean, it's what's happening with Curtin, right? People are saying, hey, he's not a good key defender. This guy's 196 centimetres and he plays mid.
Yeah, it's insane.
Like, he busts his guts in the mid. He does everything. It's like what Bond is, and Mump's saying he's the next Bond, but he has kind of the attributes for that type of player. So, yeah, someone's going to pick him up and be very happy.
And finals football is always a lot more contested.
Yep.
And during the season proper, it's very easy for you to use the space. But when it comes to finals football, it's all about getting in your face, trying to force turnovers and get the ball going the other way.
And they're the big physical players.
If you're not a physical player.
Like, if you're 195 centimetres, people aren't pushing you over.
Correct.
Versus
you can stand
180 centimetres.
Yeah.
Like, it's a big difference.
Paddy Cripps, without Paddy Cripps, Carlton don't win those two finals.
No.
Because he was immense, winning the ball in the middle, standing up in a tackle, getting the hands free, and freeing up a running teammate in Walsh a lot of the times.
I'd almost argue if Paddy Cripps was 8 centimetres shorter, they wouldn't win the finals either.
100%. 100%. So, no, there's always going to be room for a big mid. And Collingwood showed that the way you win the really close games is to suffocate the game. Don't let the opposition take the ball out into space. It's all about keep it close, tap it down in congestion, and just dive on it scrimmage style like in rugby. It's all about keeping the ball close and tight, not letting the ball go out into space. If you can't win the ball in close and personal against the Pies, you don't win a close game against Collingwood. It's that simple. So big mids, nah.
And at the very least, it becomes a player that the opposition has to start tagging and has to start marking and keep accountable, which opens up a lot of options for your other medium-sized midfielders as well.
Yeah, exactly. I love it here, Benny boys. Lily must have all these questions written down, boys. I'm guessing on a Lily pad because Lily is absolutely machine gunning us with all these questions.
That's why we're here.
And that's why we're here to answer your questions. Should St Kilda draft a ruckman in order to support Big Rowan Marshall? I think they've got Jack Hayes, who's someone that can pinch hit in the ruck. He is up and running. He is healthy again. I think if his body fails him again and he has another long-term injury, I would say at that point, yes. I think it's important to have some support for Rowan Marshall in the ruck. But if Jack Hayes can stay fit and healthy, then I wouldn't say they should get another one. I think they'd be done for tall timber, I reckon, at that point. Do you agree with me on that point, or do you still think they need another one?
Who was it? Machito Owens. I was just trying to figure out who the player was. Machito Owens in that St Kilda side.
Bless you.
Excuse me. Really showed kind of that they don't have to.
Yes.
They've got the support with him there. Yep. He can do ruck. He can do some things. I don't think they need to. As you say, they've got Hayes and other players in there. You can always poach someone who's okay from the VFL, from the state leagues. So I don't think it's a pressing need, at least this year in the draft.
I agree.
I think there's other places they can use the draft picks. Maybe at a later pick, not one of the more valuable picks. Let's throw something at a player who's 200 centimetres, have him develop, that kind of thing. But, yeah, I think for right now, there's some other issues.
Benny Boy's saying, sorry, he meant in relation to the midfielders, in relation to Supercoach, because they're saying we're getting more 100 points as opposed to 120. It's all right. Tom Green is still killing it.
I'm picking Tom Green next year.
Yeah, Tom Green's still on my team.
Cripps not.
Yeah,
because of the inconsistency, but Tom Green, yeah.
Essendon was trying to get Ollie Wines for the reasons that we just mentioned. Harvey Sutherland, thanks for the comment, Harvey. Big J, from a North supporter perspective, I love the Fisher deal.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on the deal? The only way we don't improve next year is if the defence collapses.
Yeah, so it's a two-pronged question. So let's go. Fisher deal, I'm really happy with. I'm just looking at it right now. So even outside of getting Zach Fisher, which I think, we talked a little bit before about Stevens and his run and carry, why that was important. Zach Fisher offers the same thing. If you look at his last kind of 5 or 6 games off that Carlton backline, he did what we really need him to do. Mid-25-year-old player, offers that experience, offers a body who can play a full game of football, which is something that we're desperate for, that we just haven't had for a very long time. I know Joe and I have talked about that as well as being a real need, and I've flagged this on the channel as well. Just guys who can play out a full game, who can take a little bit of pressure off those young kids, so an 18-year-old doesn't have to compete for that. If you look at the deal, in essence, though, we give up 2 picks in the 20s, which are now like late 20 picks due to all the compensation and everything else like that. And then got a pick 17, which isn't affected by your Gresham compensation, by all these other free agents coming in, because it's before the end of first round. So I'm really happy. It's allowed us to offload 2 picks that are potentially in the 30s. We've got a 20-year-old player now. Well, not 20, 25-year-old player who should be best 22. Yes, there's been some things, but on his good game, I think he's really kind of one of those hungry players. He's got friends at the club in your Griffin Logan stuff who he's been playing with since kids, but he feels like one of those hungry players that's ready to shine, who wants to show his abilities, fits a need, and now we've got a first-round pick, so I'm pretty happy. Yeah. There's no real negatives to that outside of, okay, maybe he ends up being shit and then he plays VFL, but that's, we've had Polek for 5 years, so,
exactly. Can't do much worse than that.
No.
Lily's asking who could be a slider in the draft. You thought it would be, who'd you say that would end up coming to our pick?
Dersma.
You reckon Dersma could be a slider?
So I don't think Dersma will be. Curtin seems to be falling out of the, I don't know if the fact that he didn't test, because he didn't test in the combine. I think West Coast is trying to do some shady things. So people, they can offload pick 1 for a pick 6 and then take him then.
Yeah.
And then they've still got their player at that position. It's an interesting one because...
Is it Sanders, do you think?
I think
Sanders gets to my pick?
From what I'm hearing, if Sanders gets to Geelong's pick 8, they'll take him. They've told him, you're the type of player we need. If you get to this pick, we take you. So that's why Geelong's holding on to their pick 8 at the moment. If he goes past pick 8, they'll swap for something next year. So it's an interesting one. I think the top 10 is going to be really settled. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's Curtin who slides from a 1 to 2, like he was at the start of the year, to now something 4, 5, 6, 7. But I think that's really it. I don't think there's a lot of football at the moment to really push these players going through. They're not playing under 18s champions and it's going to make them go. That's all finished now. So, yeah, it's just going to be about needs at this point.
Okay. Should Adelaide draft Caddy? Asks Lily.
Well, do they need him? You think about Caddy, right? Prototype, from what I'm hearing, Kerno type player. So, not like your 195s, but... 192 type key forward or plays that mobile key forward type player. You've got Darcy Fogarty, you've got Thilthorpe in there. Potentially, if you're trying to change the makeup, like you're saying, hey, fantastic player, but Tex Walker's only got 1 or 2 years left. Maybe we can change what the forward line looks like. But outside of that, I don't know if he's...
Is Thilthorpe sticking around or is he going to Melbourne for straight swap for pity?
I don't think he leaves. If he leaves, then maybe
that's what Kane Corns is recommending.
Mate, Kane Corns wants pick 1 for Dersma and then pick 50 for Radagalia, and if that forward line changes somehow with your Thilthorpes and things like that, as Joe's saying, potentially I think it's a good spot for him.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I don't know. Fair enough. They'll pick him up for depth and say, hey, look, we've got another really good young forward, Rankin, Rochelle, all these other guys, yeah.
If Rowan Marshall wanted to go to North Melbourne, what would you give up to get big Rowan Marshall?
I don't think it would be a pick in the way that the team's looking like. I don't think it would be pick 2 or 3. If it was this year and he wanted to come and it was hey, make a deal for us, I think we'd do a 15 and a 17 for him.
Oh, would St Kilda accept that?
Well, I'm you're asking me what would I give up for him, right? I'm not going to go sell the farm and say, hey, here's 4 first-round picks.
No, not 4.
Like those 2 for him. Okay, I can see that kind of happening. He fills a need, things like that. We do have Cherry, but we're kind of working out if he's going to be the future or not. So
Cherry, really?
I'm just saying, right?
You got Roman Tomato here.
Oscar McInerney, right? He's playing at the moment.
Oscar McInerney's a great ruckman.
Yeah, and Cherry could be that in 5 years. So,
or you can have Rowan Marshall.
Yes, but I'm not. I don't think the club's in the position or the want to go and sell the farm for him. I think there's other options there, and yes, he would be fantastic. If Charlie Curnow wants to come, then maybe because he fills a position of need. But I don't.
Maybe.
Maybe
if Charlie Curnow wants to come to North Melbourne.
Yeah.
This guy.
No, but
North Melbourne got all the draft picks this year. All of a sudden, he's just but now we're going to be peaky with our selections.
But you understand though, right? It's not like a Sydney that have lost their main ruckman that this is what's happening. There is a little bit of a fallback. It is a position of need that needs to be filled, but I'm not going to go say, hey, here's pick 2 for Owen Marshall. I just don't think it would happen, and I don't think it is going to happen.
You'd give pick 3 for Owen Marshall? No? Being on Insta, he ain't effing leaving.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Let's say if it was Rowan Marshall, right? and we get their pick 19 back for pick 3, okay, maybe something like that. But not just a straight out pick 3. Like, that's a Harry Sheasel. Yeah. I'm not giving up Harry Sheasel for
Rowan Marshall?
No. Not in North's young team. No
Fair
chance.
enough. Ben's agreeing with you. He's like, I'm with you on the cherry faith, Big J.
Yeah. This year is going to be the real... hopefully we pick up like a Edwards in the draft. I think that's where he's going to land around our pick 15. Really good player, young kid, over 20 centimetres, like 200 centimetres, which we haven't had for a long time.
Yeah.
Like Goldie's 200 has been but pushed out a lot. I think this guy's like 205. So he offers a little bit there. But yeah, this year is really going to be like, hey, work out what's happening. We're figuring that across the other lines. What can you do without Goldie? If you can't, you're being replaced.
Yep,
or at least going to be ruck forward, and then someone else is going to take number 1.
Ben is saying that Reed number 1, McKercher number 2, Dersma number 3.
Yeah, potentially. I want Nick Watson though. I think
you want Watson.
I think I think North, in the way that they are, we've got a lot of okay to decent half forwards in that medium height. And like you got your Ford and stuff. I would hate for Dersma to come in and then stop Ford's development. I think like for like, maybe Ford's a lot worse of a player, but the attributes are similar. Nick Watson fills a need. We don't have a good small forward. We're desperate for that type of position. We know from the final series how impactful that type of player is.
Oh, for sure.
So I would rather take that than take another midfielder, then take another half forward that has to compete with Zohar, Ford, Paul Curtis, all these other guys to fill a spot. Like Zane Dersma, if he came to North Melbourne, he might just end up playing like in the VFL. Yeah. So I think Nick Watson could play straight away, whereas this player maybe not.
Yeah. Could St Kilda get Caleb Windsor?
I don't know who.
Don't know who Caleb Windsor is. If these don't end up moving up the draft board further, they probably go Caddy Shawley, asks Ben.
Yeah, probably. I mean, key forward is what they're after, right?
Yes.
So they've got JVR, but they don't really have anyone else. So throwing in someone else, I think the team's good enough that they can facilitate another person, especially JVR, probably 3 or 4 years in the system. He's not that junior anymore. We did see this year him kicking 4 or 5 goals,
JVR
right?
was really good this year.
So, like, they can facilitate another one in year. And I'm not sure if Melbourne really want it. Like, Harley Reid's fantastic, right? Don't get me wrong. Best player, whatever. But 6 and 11 actually opens up some options for them to get, like, positions of need. Grab, like, the best key forward outside of Jed Walter. You know, get another position that they need. I think that might technically be worth a little bit more for them than just selling the farm and doing whatever.
I think we'll leave it for the last 5 minutes, guys. How's it going, Jen? Nice of you to join us.
We've got the producers over here who wants to go eat some food, so let's go.
Ben, don't give up pick 3 this year. The draft drops off so quick after. Of course, naturally. No one's giving up anyone.
But the thing is, though, I see it as, yes, the draft falls off, but the picks in the teens, even outside of the top 8, they're really good role players. Yes, maybe they're not as wide of a berth players, but you have still your really good wingers. You have still your really good forwards. You have still your really good key defenders. Like guys who, you know, we look at Josh Weddle. Like there's that type of player still available in the teens that people saying, oh, it drops off. Maybe the best talent drops off, but players who can fill a North Melbourne type position are still available in that teens that we need. So, yeah, I'm almost thinking like, hey, if we can trade up and get a GWS or a Geelong pick, fantastic. But just take 5 picks to the draft.
Jono on Insta saying, I want to see the Saints get Phrygia, an elite wingman who will work well.
I think that's Jono Coleman there.
Yes, Jono Coleman, of course, our good friend.
I remember him talking about him as well. So
can also see him being a damaging forward, which is really good. So Ben is saying that he'd be taking a 189 centimetre forward mid with good hands, whereas Watson can be replaced with any other small.
I don't think so.
Okay,
I don't think so.
Agree to disagree there.
I think Watson, like, from what we've seen so far, I think, you know, there's not that many good small forwards. We look at it, like, Weidman isn't even getting played. The Bulldogs are trading their entire draft hand for this year and next year to get Watson at pick 4. Like, that's how good of a player this guy is. Yes, some people say no, but, I mean, you've got Charlie Cameron. So maybe your feelings of good small forwards are kind of skewed a little bit here. But you look at it, like, I think, there's not many in the last couple of years that have been drafted that are actually playable at the moment. So get him in quick, that's it.
Yeah. Why do players want to leave Fremantle, asks Lily. That is the $1 million question.
Yep.
It's not just this year. it's been over a number of years now where you've had an exodus out of the Fremantle Football Club, and I think the Western Australian people themselves don't even know what's going on because everyone's up in arms about what's going on over there. So we're going to have to reach out to our good friend Damo over there and sort of see
maybe
if
it's a
we
culture
can,
problem from the top.
It could be, but definitely I would love to hear from Damo, I think, in that respect. Lily, if Jed Walter wasn't an academy pick, he would go number
2
instead of Reid.
Yeah. No, I still think Reid will be taken, but Jed Walter's North Melbourne 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, Gold Coast are getting a steal. North have been ridiculed for all these assistance packages and whatnot. Gold Coast are getting a top 2 pick.
Walter is a weapon. If anyone saw his chase down tackling ability, reminded me of Happy Gilmore's boss running people down. I love that one. That was really good on you, Ben. Nice reference. Jan's asking, do you think the Schultz trade to Collingwood will get done? I think it will if he is adamant on moving across.
Yeah, I think so. But it will cost you your pick in the team.
But it will cost, yes.
Yeah. But you're good enough. You're good enough to do that.
Correct. Lily, who is a Tasmania player got 10-match suspension?
Schoenmaker. I want him at North Melbourne.
What did he do?
I don't know. Punched someone or did something silly.
10 weeks?
Yeah.
Good fit for North Melbourne.
Yeah.
North should just draft Nick Watson to piss the Bulldogs off, she says.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. If this guy is good enough that someone is going to spend 3 first-round picks to get him, then you should get him because he still fills a position of need.
Jan, Taylor Adams will be missed heaps. Hope he does well in Sydney. Well, he will if he can stay healthy. Otherwise, he won't. So, guys, I think we will call it a stream here. We've been going for well over an hour. Thank you all so much for watching. If you haven't, chuck us a like, please, on the stream. Chuck us a sub as well. We'll do immense for the channel's growth, which we have been growing very nicely thanks to all of your support. Please stay tuned with us because we are pumping out videos and live streams every single week for you wonderful people. The trade period is not over and we continue to have proper footy chats here on the channel. Don't we, Big J?
Yep. 100%. If you haven't as well, sub to Send a Bounce. That's our kind of own content as well. So.
Yes, of course. Our own private content that is not quite in studio setting like this, but you still do see more of us if you haven't been if you're not sick of us tonight.
Keep your ad block off and maybe we can get there one day.
100%. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.
See you later.